I've read multiple fantasy books at this point. I'm not a seasoned reader, but I've read a lot. And these are the two, four, six, eight, 10. Nice number. These are the 10 fantasy books that I've given 5 stars to. Before I get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe and tell us what your 5 star fantasy books are in the comments. Also, consider becoming a Patreon. Link is in the description. First up, we are starting with George R. R. Martin, A Storm of Swords. This is book 3 in the Song of Ice and Fire series, and it is not just the best book in the series by far, but it's also one of the best books of all time. I'm including part 1 and 2. I know I'm holding up part 2, but I'm including part 1 and 2 in this. This is probably fantasy at its best, if I'm being honest with you. And when you see everyone's sort of rankings for the best Song of Ice and Fire books, this is pretty much always number 1. And that's for good reason. We obviously get crazy events in this, great character growth, the pacing is magnificent, just the depth and the world is just, it's something else. And obviously the Red Wedding we get in here, which is one of the most, I guess, iconic events in literature history and even television history as well. And the fact that it translated on screen as well was just, listen, it's just magnificent. So we're starting off strong, A Storm of Swords. Keeping with George R. R. Martin, we have book 2 in the Song of Ice and Fire series, A Clash of Kings. This book, again, just magnificent. Magnificent. Again, it was my favorite until I read A Storm of Swords, but A Clash of Kings is just such a step up from the first book, A Game of Thrones. And again, George R. R. Martin just does a madness with this. I really love how he writes battle scenes. They are immersive, and the way he can just write like anticipation, all the politicking, all the plotting and scheming is fantastic. And just the complexity and the depths that we get in every POV is just magnificent. George R. R. Martin really, I know, these days, because he takes so long to write, it's easy to sort of clown him these days, but when the Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords came out, I think it was late 90s, early 2000s when they both came, or maybe both in the 90s. No one could talk shit to him. No one could ever chat to him. He was the guy. And to be honest, I know some people, when it comes to unfinished series, hate waiting for the next book to come out. A lot of people literally are like, the series has to be finished for me to even begin reading it. But A Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords are so good in particular that I actually do not mind that George R. R. Martin is taking eons for it to come out. Like, my pleasure of reading these books hasn't been, decreased because the series is unfinished. I'm so glad I've read this. Switching up to Dark Academia now, we have The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. This book, this is due a reread because I finished the series, and the Atlas Paradox and the Atlas Complex were horrible books. I absolutely detested them. And it's made me think, like, did I overrate this series? Did I overrate, not the series, but did I overrate the Atlas 6? I don't think I did. I always love this front cover, by the way. This front cover is just fantastic. I actually saw the self-published copy in a recent trip to Oxfam in Notting Hill Gate for like £4. I contemplated getting it, but I was just like, yeah. But that also looks good. But anyway, Atlas 6, you guys know what this blew up on Book Talk years ago, I think around 2020 or so. And the hype, which is real. And I still think the hype's justified. It's due a reread 100%, but this is, for me, a 5-star book. I loved the drama between all the magicians. I loved the premise. To be honest, anything that sounds related to like X-Men slash kill your competition trope slash last man standing type stuff, I am all for it. And even just the archetypes in this, the nerdy girl, the femme fatale, the overly confident sort of macho guys, the manipulative you know, plethora of people, because it's not just one that's manipulative. Like they pretty much all are. It's just fantastic. Plus, just the shadowy mystery side of it, and just what we learn in this. This was an excellent book. It is due a reread. I can't wait to reread it because I finished the series earlier this year. And yeah, the third and final book was the ultimate letdown. But this first book really had me. It really, really did. The fourth book, and by the way, this isn't ranked. I maybe should have ranked it, but I don't care. It's not ranked. I usually do rank. I usually have no problem ranking, but I'm just going off the top here. Next up is Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. This is the first book in the Powder Mage trilogy. I am currently reading the Crimson Campaign, which is the second book, and I'm halfway through it, and it's excellent also. But this first book, it's a just fantastic, fantastic read. This is like a flintlock fantasy. The magic system is just absolutely excellent. Ryan was a student of Brandon Sanderson, and it tells because his magic systems, and how they interact with each other is great. The missions we're on, the purpose, just everything about this book and even this series is just absolutely fantastic. And so this was an easy 5-star when I read it, and I'm so happy I got to this. Moving on to the young adult side of things, again, just like the Atlas 6, this series is one where the first book was excellent and the rest were not. And this first book I'm talking about is An Ember in the Ashes by Tahir, which is the first book in the Ember Quartet. This book was fantastic. This has all the typical YA tropes, and like I keep saying, it has a sprinkle of just magic that Tahir just put in there, and it's just excellent. We have, you know, the military school, we have the oppression, the rebellion, very strong characterization, and also we have that sort of teenage angst and romance and conflicts, inner conflicts, plus obviously physical and violent conflict also. This book was just fantastic. I love this world. This was a very fast-paced read, and it is a dual POV, and it's a wonderful, wonderful read. So yeah, this was a 5-star. The next book in the series was a 4-star. The third book, I think, was that a 2-star, 2.5-star? Then the last book was like a 3/3.5-star read. So it wasn't like, it didn't plummet off a cliff like with the Atlas trilogy, because with the Atlas 6 I gave that 5-star, of course, but then the Atlas Paradox got 2 stars. That was the middle book, and then the last book I gave 1.5 stars to. That was the Atlas Complex. It went from hero to zero in that series, but this one kind of, it dropped off after the first book, but then, wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad in total. The third book was weird. I hated that book, but is what it is. But this first book, absolutely recommend it. It's absolutely banging. If you have been on my channel long enough, if you've seen my videos, you know full well what the last set of books are going to be, and that is Harry Potter. I am not afraid to show my absolute adoration and love for this series. Out of the Harry Potter series, most of them are 5-star reads for me, and that includes, first off, The Philosopher's Stone. This iconic book with probably the most iconic cover of all time, iconic spine, and iconic back cover also, is probably the most magical book ever written. Nothing compares to Harry Potter at all, and nothing's as magically written as The Philosopher's Stone. We do kind of get the magical elements in the Chamber of Secrets, but that's a 4.5-star book for me. But nothing really beats this first one, and just its madness what this book is. And obviously I don't need to explain Harry Potter to you guys. You guys all know what the deal is. Like I said multiple times, this is the greatest book series of all time by far. So yeah. The Philosopher's Stone is first up. I know for the Americans it's called the Sorcerer's Stone, and the way they had to reword it for the American audience, and the explanation for it was unfortunate, but yeah, the Philosopher's Stone. This is followed up by The Prisoner of Azkaban. This is the third book in the Harry Potter series, and this book is just, again, the artwork is just beautiful. Um, Cliff Wright, shout out to Cliff Wright. Did he do the other one as well? Let me see. No, Thomas Taylor did the Philosopher's Stone. Shout out to Thomas. Shout out to all of them. Anyway, what J.K. Rowling was able to put in 300 pages is just absolutely fantastic. This book was crazy, and I absolutely loved it. We start getting the darker tones. Plus, also, my favorite moment in the whole Harry Potter series is in this book as well, um, which is, no one would correctly guess what that moment is. I won't say, but because it's so mundane, but I absolutely loved it. But yeah, The Prisoner of Azkaban, excellent, 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 excellent book. Within the Harry Potter series, I think J.K. Rowling went on an incredible run between The Prisoner of Azkaban, The Goblet of Fire, and The Order of the Phoenix. Like, she was absolutely spazzing out. The Goblet of Fire, I've always said, is the best in the series. Technically, it is. I think is it the second biggest? Not sure, but the way we open up the magical world here on the international stage, fantastic. The mystery, the friendship breakdown, we get everything in the Goblet of Fire. Unrequited love, jealousy, all sorts, and obviously Voldemort comes back also in this. So it is crazy. This is obviously just hands down 5-star read. This is a lot of people's favorite, The Goblet of Fire, and a lot of people have complaints about how it translated onto the big screen as well. But that's a conversation for another day. My personal favorite in Harry Potter series is The Order of the Phoenix. Look at that front cover. This as well, I think this rivals the first book as having the best artwork. And who was it by? Let me see. It doesn't even, actually does say. Jason Cockcroft. He done a madness. Just the front cover, the spine, and even the back. Just artistically, this is just absolutely fantastic. And this book, it gets quite dark in this book. Harry's PTSD is extremely well written. This whole story, Dumbledore's army, is probably one of the most heartfelt aspects of this whole series. I absolutely love the concept, love the execution. The execution was perfect. And obviously the ending is crazy. And a lot of people, J.K. Rowling said this book was too long. This is 766 pages long. Don't even care. Do not even care. Do not even care. I thought it was beautifully, beautifully executed. And obviously we opened the Wizarding World up so much more. And we opened up the past of the Wizarding World so much more with The Order of the Phoenix. Fantastic, fantastic book. This book and the film are both my favorites. So yeah, love this. Last but not least, of course, the Deathly Hallows, the 7th and the last book in the Harry Potter series. Again, what can I say here? This just wraps up the whole series beautifully. There may not be a series that has wrapped up as beautifully as the Harry Potter series. Like, this is definitely up there with one of the best sort of like closed and finishing books of all time. Fantastic, fantastic book. The oppression in this book is very underrated. What the Wizarding World was like under Voldemort's occupation was extremely, extremely underrated. It was executed quite beautifully. We kind of got a dystopian world. It was a post-apocalyptic fantasy, and that post-apocalyptic / dystopian sort of vibe with those with any sort of Muggle blood being persecuted, and just the overall oppression and just the darkness and bleakness of life, and how they had the underground radio station set up to really sort of keep communication with everyone. All of that was executed perfectly. And I read a lot of post-apocalyptic and dystopian books, and actually, come to think about it, the Deathly Hallows actually ranks up there with some of the best, especially how it was executed as well. So gotta rate this. The Half-Blood Prince used to be a 5-star read for me. I kind of dropped it half a star during my second reread of it last year. It used to be my favorite, but now it went from like the top to like near the bottom. And when I say near the bottom, I mean it's Harry Potter, you know, and I rated it 4.5 stars. The series is pretty much perfect, but yeah, no, but Half Blood Prince was great. It is what it is. Anyway, those are my 5-star fantasy reads. Let me know what yours are in the comments, and also don't forget, consider becoming a Patreon to help support the channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.